Hola, and como estas, you bitches? It is me, Mad Matt, and I'm recording for an episode of Historical History. Oh my. Today, we're going to be talking about Elizabeth Bathory, or the Countess of Blood, who is the most renowned killer of female serial killer history. Oh my. So, the Countess Elizabeth Bathory has been alleged to kill over 650 people from the Hungarian Empire, and which is Transylvania, which is now Romania, and it was part of the Habsburg monarchy. This comes from one of the claims of the Syrian girls named Susanna, that Jacob Sjavli, Countess Bathory's court official, has seen the figure of one of Bathory's private books, which was never revealed. Now, the thing here is that as the most prolific serial killer in female history, we must go into fact to say maybe it's real, maybe it's not, because the counts are skewed. And by that I mean the counts can't be held to actual judicial prejudice. And I'll say this. At 650 motherfuckers dead, she probably killed some folks. The stories of her serial murders and brutality are verified through the testimony of more than 300 witnesses and survivors, as well as physical evidence and the presence of horribly mutilated dead, dying, and imprisoned girls found at the time of her arrest. Stories describing her vampire-like tendencies, most famously the tale that she bathed in the blood of virgins to retain her youth, were generally recorded years after her death and considered unreliable. I'll say this, though. Probably true, though. Probably true, though. Witnesses were said to have that she stabbed victims, stabbing their breasts, hands, arms, and faces, cutting them with scissors, sticking needles into their lips, and burning them with red-hot irons, coins, or keys. The history that she bathed in the virgin blood to retain her youth were to have developed later on. That doesn't mean that she didn't do it. It just means that the savagery of her actions happened much later after her death. Elizabeth herself was not put on trial because of her family status, and she was shut up in the castle Chagette in sort of a house arrest. Between 1602 and 1604, after rumors of Bathory's atrocities had spread through the kingdom, Lutheran minister Istvan Magyari made complaints against her both publicly and in the court of Vienna. The Hungarian authorities took some time to respond to Magyari's complaints. Finally, in 1610, which is considerably longer than the initial reports at 1604, told King Mathis II, and he assigned Grigory Thurzo to the Palpatine of Hungary to investigate. Thurzo ordered two notaries to collect evidence in March of 1610. In 1610 and 1611, the notaries collected testimony from over 300 witnesses. The trial records include the testimony of 4 defendants as well as 13 witnesses. Priests, noblemen, and commoners were questioned. According to the testimony, Bathory's initial victims were adolescent daughters of local peasants, many of whom were lured into the cateche by offers of well-paid work as maids and servants in the castle. Later, it is said that she is said to have begun to kill the daughters of the lesser gentry, who were sent to her part of the gymnasium by her parents to learn the courtly etiquette. Essentially, these were the daughters of noble people who were not quite the richest, but were rich enough to send them to the gynecentry. The abductions were said to have occurred with the noble people as well. The atrocities were described as the most consistently include several beatings, burnings, or mutilations of hands, biting of the flesh and faces, arms, and other body parts, freezing or starving to death. The use of needles was also mentioned in the collaborators in the court. There were many who suspected forms of torture carried out by Elizabeth. According to the Budapest City Archives, the girls were scalded with hot tongs and then placed in freezing cold water. They were also covered in honey and in live ants. That shit is most fucked up. Like, you're sweet and you're covered in ants and they're biting on your pots. Not cool. Elizabeth is also suspected of having participated in cannibalism, as in she ate parts of the young, which also feels into the part where she was bathing in the blood of virgins. Thursday went to Catshay Castle after Christmas on December 30th, 1610, and caught Bathory in the act. Thursday arrested Bathory and 4 of her servants who were accused of being her accomplices. Dortoya Semets, Ilona Jo, Katerina Benica, and Jonas Uyare were all locked up. They found one of the girls dead, one dying, and one reported to another woman as found wounded while others were locked up. The Countess was put under house arrest. Although it is debated that further proceedings in Elizabeth's sons Paul and 2 of her sons-in-laws, a trial was executed and caused a public scandal and disgraced the noble and influential family, which at the time ruled Transylvania, which ended up being Romania. Elizabeth's considerable property would have been seized by the crown. Thurzo, along with Paul and 2 of her sons-in-laws, originally planned for Elizabeth to be spirited away to a nunnery, but accounts of her murder and daughters of lesser nobility spread. It was agreed that Elizabeth Bathory should be placed under strict house arrest and that further punishment should be avoided. And the trial of Bathory's accomplices began on the 2nd of January in 1611 at Bietacana, Bisay? I don't know how to say that. That's a language I don't understand. Presided over the Royal Supreme Court Theodosius Sirmian C. de Sulo and 20 associate judges. I butchered the fuck out of that. And you know what I don't care about? How to fucking pronounce that fucked up name. Dozens of witnesses and survivors, sometimes up to 35 day, testified. All but one of the Countess's servants testified against her. In addition to this testimony, the court also examined skeletons and cadavers, parts found as evidence. Bathory was imprisoned in the Cattachet castle and placed in solitary confinement. She was kept bricked up in a set of rooms, only with a small slits open for ventilation and the passing of food. She remained there for 4 years until her death. On the evening of the 21st of August, 1614, Bathory complained to her bodyguard that her hands were cold, whereupon he replied, "It's nothing, mistress. Just go lie down." She went to sleep and was found dead following the morning. She was buried in the church of the Cattachet on the 25th of November, 1614. But according to some sources in the villagers' uproar having the Blood Countess buried in their cemetery, her body was murdered through her birth home at Essasade, where it was interred at the Bathory family crypt. The location of her body of today is unknown, and the Cattachet church or Cattachet castle should not bear any marking of her possible grave, which is probably great considering she was the most recognizable female serial killer of all time. And I'll say this, you probably fucked some fucked up bitches, but you ain't never seen a bitch like this. This has been Historical History with Mad Matt, and I bid you adieu.